So this was something. It was something very small in the chapter that is easily overlooked, but it really had me thinking. Uh, so we learned that we seen that the Seraphim, they pretty much, you know, arrived after CP0, right? And everybody's like, "Hey, CP0 ordered the Seraphim," but even CP0 was like, "We didn't order them." They was like, you know, the Seraphim pretty much have like a level of independent thought on their own, right? Like, they're granted. I forget exactly what Shaka said. I think Shaka said something about it. He said like they're programmed with a level of independent thinking. My question though, how smart are the Seraphim? And is it possible we could see them evolve to actually become independent? Almost like how we look at technology, where we kind of think like technology might eventually evolve to where it's like we can't control it anymore. Is it possible the Seraphim they can evolve past their programming and eventually have independent thought? You know what I mean? I think there's been a few times where it's been foreshadowed that the Seraphim could eventually be like independent, like Jinbei's and Boa's interaction, or S Snake. So it just made me think maybe Boa might end up wanting to be good or something, but I don't know. But what you guys think?
I think that's a great point, great place to end it all on, because I think with the Seraphims, a lot of people have been focused on the Order 66, like the turning point where the revolutionaries can say the catchphrase and all of a sudden the Seraphims are turned against the world government. And that's great and all. That'll be cool. But Oda is I just can't see him not saying something more with these devices, using the seven original warlords, at least so far, as the model for these seraphims. Having, you're right, that interaction between Hancock or S Snake, whatever, and Jinbei, that is super telling that she could go down the same route as Hancock. I guess taking out the really tragic childhood, but
Mm-hmm.
still, having those same predispositions.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's going to be a dangerous road working with these seraphim, and I don't know if it'd just be the world government in the end that reaps the consequences of that. I think that would be something that would extend to Vegapunk, to the Straw Hats, to the
Everybody.
revolutionaries, everybody, exactly.
Everybody getting it. Everybody getting it. The rebellion of the Seraphim. The Seraphim
They're just
rebellion.
children. They're just children too. And they're already huge.
Yeah. I think that DNA element, or the genetic element, the bloodline element, I think that could actually probably make them more like the people they're cloned from, which could essentially mean they become more independent, right? So
Mhm.
I think that's possible. I think it just made me think, like they already have an element of independence, right? And I feel as
Yeah.
though you mix that with their genetic, their bloodline element, which is pretty much responsible for their continuous evolution, right? So if you mix that, that means they could potentially become even more independent, which means it's going to be trouble for somebody. And I think the world government is definitely going to be in that camp of who it's trouble for. Cube, what up? I know Cube got some
So,
juiciness.
so I'll answer to your question, and I'm going to address something that we did talk about in this chapter. For me, I think you guys are completely right. That I do think that at least for those kids, I don't think that they do have a certain amount of free will, but because of the control, it's contained. I do think at one point they won't be able to contain it because I do think that it's the year old. Best example is the Android 16, 17, and 18 in Dragon Ball. Because of their infinity level, they were unable to be controlled or contained by Dr. Gero. I think it's something similar. At one point, they won't be able to control them. In which also I'm wondering, now that we have Stussy, I've always wondered if Vegapunk had been working on the side on more adult, maybe not Seraphim, but other type of clones. Since I think the Celestial Dragon, like I think the Gorosei demanded like Seraphim for a specific reason, you know. And I think he's been maybe working on other stuff. I truly believe that the doctor of the West Blue that Vegapunk referenced about the 21 gram could be a Dr. Hookback, who's from the West Blue. And when Chopper met him, he told to Dr. Hookback, I read all of your medical journal and articles. You're one of the most smartest men in the world. That's how they started the interaction, in which I think he could have written a medical journal long ago called 21 Gram, talking about the soul. And that's how maybe he could have been known in the story.
Okay. Good point.
And he had fake bat wings on him. That's his whole thing, remember?
Yeah.
And Stussy appearing at the end of the chapter.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Boy.
Yo.
So with these Seraphim, are they going to evolve? Are we going to see a revolution of the Seraphim or a rebellion? A Seraphim rebellion?
Yeah, I definitely think at some point they will rebel and refuse to take orders.
Yeah.
Especially with what Cube was talking about with Dr. Zero and the androids.
Makes sense, man. It makes sense. So the Seraphim could be like, but I could kind of see it where Eam, if we learn that Eam has like is Eam superpower, like if Eam is super powerful, maybe Eam is somehow able to capitalize on the Seraphim or something. Like, I could see that being like I don't know how, but it's just kind of like we talk about the Android saga, how they kind of rebelled against Jiro, but then Cell comes along and he's kind of like the androids are just there to feed Cell for becoming the most powerful creature at the time in the series. So I could see Eam possibly, I don't know, Eam using the Seraphim somehow, or I don't know, like depending on what Eam's ability is or something, but it's possible.